Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Postscript for IS 350 Sports and International Affairs. Last time we gathered here on YouTube to talk about the issues that are been related, covered in units 1 through 4, to talk about how countries act and interact in the international system surrounding sport, the role that athletes play, the way that international federations play, sporting bingos play, and all of these sorts of things, and the role that fans, who are also consumers, who are also citizens of countries of the world, engage with the sports that they care about, and then are able to manifest their interests and perhaps be manipulated or perhaps manipulate situations as they go forward. This class is international studies is one that most people take as a one-off IS sort of class. Not everybody does. Several people take other IS courses as they go forward, but unlike say an economics class or a chemistry class or a physics class or something where you're taking principal courses, where you take one at the beginning level, then an intermediate class, then an advanced class, for most people this is it. So what do you do with the knowledge? Well, I would suggest that these themes are going to come back to you often throughout your life. Unlike a lot of the classes you take, they won't sort of exist during your college years in a vacuum. That if you take the skill sets you learn from here, the knowledge and analytical skills you learn from here, you'll see them applied out throughout the rest of your life because the rhythm of international sport mandates that it will. This comes up that frequently. But there are some tangible things that we want to review. First, the takeaways. These are listed in your syllabus, but these are things that I hope that you would be able to explain. So if we sat down and instead of having a synthesis essay that you're writing about, I was just to ask you to explain these 6 takeaways, that you would be able to do it. And you would be able to describe in detail the patterns that emerge under these. I also have learning outcomes, the basic things that I measure through the different activities that we've done. And again, these are on your syllabus. You can always review them as you get ready to write the synthesis essay at the end of the class. Certainly, if you addressed these things, you would be in good shape. But really, where do we go from here? And so for me, I want to take you to the movie The Abyss. This is from James Cameron. He filmed it and put it together in the late 80s and early 90s. It's a movie about a group of ocean explorers drilling who stumble on a group of aliens who live at the bottom of an abyss. And so, okay, maybe you don't know this film anymore, but it's got a nice scene at the end that sort of puts this into perspective for me. These aliens take Ed Harris's character down to the bottom of the ocean and they start to replay for him all the horrible things that humanity has done. And they sort of are weighing humanity and him in the balance. And as he goes through and sees all the terrible wars and suffering and things that we have, he becomes very agitated and he's aware that they're sort of judging him. Then it flips and they sort of balance it against the good of humanity. And ultimately the good outweighs the bad. That doesn't mean that it covers up or excuses the bad. You're still aware of it, but as you go forward, you feel better on balance. And so that message from the abyss we want to carry forward here into sports and international affairs. And there's a lot of bad. We looked at a lot of bad this semester, right? And I know a lot of bad. I'm a sports fan who's aware of doping scandals. I'm a sports fan who's aware of point shaving and gambling and match fixing. I know dictators turn to sport frequently to try and both assuage their own populations and then to do some sort of positive outreach around the world. I know FIFA is a corrupt organization, and I'll always remember John Oliver's sausage principle, right? Because at the end, he says, even though they do all this terrible stuff, they still have the World Cup. They still have the World Game. And them and the IOC, and then FIBA and FINA and the ISA and on and on and on. They control these games, and whatever else they have this stuff that we love. And I know about hooliganism and fans rioting, and I know all of the bad. But it's really about balancing it, right? It's how does it all come together for you? And actually, this slide I wasn't exactly noticing before I put it up because I was focused on the athlete. But there's Visa and there's AT&T and T and there's Tyson and several other sponsors. So there's maybe a good and bad of sports still. But on balance, right? Just like at the bottom of the ocean, the abyss, we need to balance this. We need to balance it with lots of other stuff. The trick is how your sports base plays out if you're an individual sports fan. If you're not interested in sports, then it's hard to say that a logical analysis of all the stuff we've talked about leads to a positive view of sports. But the reality is that sports and fandom and interest in sport is not a logical thing at all. It's illogical. It's emotional. There's no like logical explanation for why I would care for one sport over another sport. It's a personal preference. It's an emotional reaction. So my own sports space is sort of what leads me to the most positive side because within that space, all the positive stuff that I've gotten from being a fan of sports and continue to get from being a fan of sports then outweighs the bad. The balance is the course is sort of roughly split between good stuff, quote unquote good stuff, and bad stuff. Positive applications of sport and negative applications of sport. And yes, sport might save the world, but it might lead to continued conflict. So my sports space, how does this play out? Well, the University of Idaho is in my sports space. I don't mean just athletics and not always even athletics. The whole university is part and parcel of something that identifies me. We run some really amazing programs with the University of Idaho that don't get a lot of attention around the state. Part of the reason is that for most people, the way they engage with institutions that have an athletic component is that they look at the performance in athletics and that determines them whether it's successful or not. But for example, the Martin Institute where I work is quite a remarkable organization, and there's lots of others at the University of Idaho. But as far as sports specifically, Vin Scully, not so much the Dodgers, but Vin Scully is part of my sports space, and it's sort of located at a time and a place. Right, it's from watching baseball with my dad and with my mom and my brother, going to games, but in particular listening to Vin Scully on my transistor radio. This was something that we would do on long car trips, and before Major League Baseball expanded into Colorado and into Arizona, the Dodgers had broadcast affiliates all across the Southwest, and so as we drive on long trips, if you could have the Dodger game on, it was really something. A fantastic way between the pregame, game, and postgame. You could take a nice 5-hour drive, and it was wonderful. But I also listened on the radio, and so when I went to bed, and so that's sort of a place and a time where that really matters to me. That's an emotional connection. I have an emotional connection to the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games, and all the crap that goes on with the Olympics and will continue to go on with the Olympics. I get happy when I see the Marshall Islands marching in, as they did here in 28 in Beijing, as part of the family of nations. I think that's really cool. There's no logical reason why I think it's cool. I just really identify with the small states being able to say, here we are, we're part and parcel of this. So that's an emotional reaction. In sports, I've got two main avenues of fandom. One is the Real Salt Lake team based in Salt Lake City. They happen to be the first Major League Soccer team that was within 750 miles or so of where we live here in the Palouse, and so we adopted them. That was before Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver came to the league, but we had already sort of adopted that team as ours, and so we keep it, my wife and I. And the U.S. national team, and I have this picture from the 2010 World Cup. I could have had, and probably if I had more room, I would have also put Carly Lloyd from 2015 or Abby Wambach from 2011. I've got a nice picture of Abby Wambach here in my office that is next to this picture of Landon Donovan scoring. So we've got both those things. That's in my sports race and will continue to be. So on balance for me, this outweighs all the other stuff. How it outweighs for you, that's entirely up to you because how you engage with this the rest of your life is a completely personal decision. Obviously, the rest of this semester, you've got this last week, you get to/have to write a synthesis essay that ties the ideas we've been talking about together with some documentary film. But how you engage with these issues going forward is entirely up to you. But I hope that these themes will resonate with you for decades to come. And, you know, I was an undergraduate student once. Well, twice, sort of, because I had a gap in my studies. I was an undergraduate student twice, and I don't have a long list of things that I've taken with me from my different undergraduate classes. But this is something that you'll take with you and remember going forward. Thanks for an interesting semester. I'm here if you ever have thoughts or ideas you want to shoot my way. Happy to chat, and best of luck to you.